I do not own any shares in America right now. The American stock market has never gone up this long in history. It's been going up since 2008, and as I say, that has never happened in American history, that things have done so well for so long. So if history's any guide, we're coming close to the end for the American market and therefore the American economy. In the past, no matter what country, if things have done well for a long time, it often comes to an end. And when it comes to an end, at first nobody notices, nobody cares, but then eventually everybody notices and everybody's unhappy. That will probably happen again.
Good morning, James. Welcome to the show. I think it's been almost 3 years we had you here. I think I remember interviewing you in May 2022. So a lot of things have changed in the past couple of years. So how is Singapore, by the way? And Happy New Year.
Well, as far as I know, Singapore is fine. Things are great. In many countries, they say from rags to rags in 3 generations. Well, Singapore is now on its 4th generation, so we'll see. But as far as I know, everything is great.
Okay. How do you look at the world? I mean, people are concerned after seeing a continued rise in the U.S. equity. People feel a bit overwhelmed by the valuation. I think there's a mixed view about how Trump policy will pan out. So how do you look at the world?
Well, I will start with the economy and the markets, since that's pretty crucial to the world. The American stock market has never gone up this long in history. It's been going up since 2008. And as I say, that has never happened in American history, that things have done so well for so long. So if history's any guide, we're coming close to the end for the American market and therefore the American economy. And it certainly makes sense. It has been a long time. I'm starting to see some signs of problems developing. I do not own any shares in America right now, but I have not sold anything short in America. I'm waiting and watching. Often when there's a market and it gets to the end, things get really crazy near the end and things go up a lot. I'm watching to see if that happens. If that happens, it will be a good time to sell short in America, but I am not selling short yet. I'm just sitting here and watching to see what happens.
So basically, you took profit from the U.S. equity. You're not ready to go short yet, so that's very clear. But your concern about U.S. stock market, is it more of a fundamental concern about the U.S. economy, U.S. corporates and earnings, or is it just a valuation call?
Well, it's all of the above. It's everything. The valuation is certainly high, and stocks have done extremely well, which is wonderful, but they've done extremely well for a very long time. And in the past, no matter what country, if things have done well for a long time, it often comes to an end. And when it comes to an end, at first nobody notices, nobody cares, but then eventually everybody notices and everybody's unhappy. That will probably happen again. I should say it has always happened in history, always, everywhere in the world. It might happen again.
I know you majored in history at Yale, and you are very well aware of the history of the various countries. What I found very interesting when Trump nominated key people to his cabinet, got Bessent, the nominee for the Treasury Secretary. Did he intern at your office while he was a student? Is that right?
Yes. He, for some reason, he knew nothing about investing, nothing. But in his last year, he decided he wanted to learn about the investment world. He applied to me to be an intern. I said yes. So he came down. He knew nothing about money or finance or investing, but he was enthusiastic. He was keen to learn, and he learned. And I think the reason he came to me was because I had an office that was an apartment, so he could have a place to live, place to sleep. And like many students, he didn't have much money, so if he could have a place to sleep and live, it was even better.
How was it like? I think the market is generally positive about the nomination. He's a very experienced macro guy. So if anything surprising, negative happens in the world, he's a person to understand and communicate with the key players. So
Well, the Treasury Secretary gets the blame or the credit for everything, whether it's his fault or not. Uh, to repeat, I mean, I haven't seen Scott in many, many years, but at the time he was enthusiastic and wanted to learn. Looks like he did a good job. He learned something somewhere.
about going back to the US market, I know, you took profit. Obviously, you have a fundamental concern. What are the signs that you monitor? You were a macro player, so that means that you could always go short and take opportunity of the market weakness. So what are the signs that you look for at this moment?
Well, you look for madness. You're looking over enthusiasm. Maybe I should put it that way, where everybody is enthusiastic and positive. Everybody thinks things are great and can only get better. They don't think anything can go wrong. They call up their friends and they talk about they found a wonderful new game. The stock market, you can make money, and it's easy. It's easy to make money. And that's what they're all saying now, how easy it is and how much fun it is. And I mean, I've seen this movie before. I know how it ends. It always ends badly. I mean, we've had markets and investing for hundreds of years, thousands of years. And whenever people get over enthusiastic and overexcited, it usually ends badly. We're all human beings, and we've been human beings for thousands of years, and we have the same emotions always.
I mean, both of my kids are working in the US and they were back home briefly during past winter and they were talking about how easy it is to make money in the stock market. So
Well, you have your own evidence. I mean, I see it, we all see it. Many people are saying that now.
How about the inflation? Powell seems pretty confident that eventually inflation will head down to 2% target level set by the Fed, but the market seems very worried, and the yield curve really has steepened in the past couple of weeks with the 10% Treasury hitting 4.7. So there's a very steepening yield curve. Is that something that we should be worried about?
Well, I have learned to worry about everything, even things that I don't worry about, I should worry about. Something always happens that we didn't think about. Something always happens all of a sudden, and it leads to problems. I wish I could tell you exactly what and when and where, but I have never been able to do that. But I do know, have read enough history to know that something eventually goes wrong. Whether we know it or not, whether we can anticipate it or not, something goes wrong. Some of the signs are, as I said, that when people say it's easy to make money in the stock market, everybody wants to jump into the market. Everybody knows it's an easy way to make money. I mean, this has all happened before. It's not the first time. And I can see it happening again. It's not enough yet for me to start selling short in a big way, but I see the signs that something might happen before too, but probably this year.
There is so much liquidity in the global financial market and particularly the US. And if we look at December, and that was when we had a big political events in Korea, right? The impeachment and other political issue. And during the last months, Korean retail had put in, on average, $1 billion every day into the U.S. equity market. That's a little crazy, right?
Well, that is a sign. We'll find out if it's crazy. It certainly sounds crazy on a historic basis. It is gigantic enthusiasm. When everybody's enthusiastic, you should start getting worried.
Yeah, yeah. What are the assets or the investment that you're positive at this moment?
Well, not very many. I have a lot of my money in American dollars, and I mean the American dollar is a current currency with many problems. So you probably should say, why do you own American dollars? And it's because when problems come, people all over the world look for a safe haven, and they think the US dollar is a safe haven for historic reasons. It's not a safe haven. The US is the largest debtor nation in the history of the world, but people think it's a safe haven for historic reasons. So I hope that I'm smart enough that if the US dollar gets overpriced, I hope I'm smart enough to sell it.
So currently you are long US dollar.
I'm long a lot of US dollars. I'm long a few Chinese shares and a few shares in Uzbekistan and a lot of US dollars.
How about other assets like commodities? Do you still have a positive view on certain commodities?
Yes, certainly more positive than on shares. Most commodities are still not overpriced. I mean, sugar's down over 50% from its all-time high. Silver's down 50% from its all-time high. Gold is making all-time highs. I own both. I would not buy gold now. I would buy silver if I were buying one. But no, I think that in commodities, there are better values than there are in stocks. Stocks are making all-time highs. Most commodities are not.
So to recap on the commodity view, you would not be excited at gold at this moment, at this price, but you would be a positive on silver and other commodities.
I own gold and I own silver. If I were buying one today, I would buy silver or maybe some of the other commodities. I mean, sugar, many of them are cheap on a historic basis.
How about China? I mean, you have been positive on China for a couple of decades. That was a great call. You know China very well. Even though you did move your family to Singapore, you have your kids learning Mandarin. That's very impressive. And should we be worried about President Xi and his policy and the big property bubble?
Well, I have learned to be worried about everybody, especially in government. Something happens to people when they go into the government, and they sometimes change for some reason. I own Chinese shares. I am still optimistic about China, the future of China. But, I mean, America became the most successful country in the 20th century. But we had problems along the way. And China will continue to have problems. That's the way the world works. That's the way the world has always worked. So sure. But remember, America had many horrible problems as we became the most successful country in the world. China will too. Everybody will. Korea had many problems as you became successful. It's the way the world works. And you need to understand that if you're going to be investing anywhere in the world.
So if we take a long-term view, still you claim that we should be positive on China and they will manage all these issues along the way.
Well, yes, that is my view. I will point out to you that China, the only country in the world that's been on top 3 or 4 times. Rome was great once. Egypt was great once. Britain was great once. But China's been great 3 or 4 times. It's been on top 3 or 4 times. It collapsed 3 or 4 times. It had catastrophe. But for some reason, after a few centuries or decades or something, China rises to the top again. It's happening again. I don't know why. If you know why, do not tell anybody. Just send me a private message. We'll both get rich together. It seems to be happening again in China. I repeat, I don't know why, but I can see that it is happening.
I mean, the people there are really smart. They're working very hard. So, there is a positive story. Can we talk a little bit about Korea? I found out that you wrote a book in Japanese, talking about the world in 2030, and you classified into the promising countries and deteriorating countries, and Korea was included in the country with not too positive outlook. I'm not surprised because lot of things going on in Korea is not very exciting. So, can you talk a little bit about this book and how you look at the two countries that are divided along promising or deteriorating outlook?
Well, I should ask you, you're Korean and you're a learned Korean. But in my view, yes, if a Martian landed from Mars and in the world, he would say, what is this? They speak the same language, they're the same ethnic group, they use the same chopsticks, they eat the same rice. What is this? Why are they divided? I know that Korea will not always be divided. There have been many countries divided in history, but eventually logic takes over and the countries get back together. I know it will happen to Korea again someday. I don't know when. If I were doing it, I would open the border right now. I would go up to the 38th parallel and open the border and have a big party. I would invite Blackpink. I would invite everybody to come, and we would have a very big party. We'd have a music group from North Korea, a music group from South Korea. We'd have a big party and leave the border open. But I'm not in charge, so that's not going to happen. But I hope it happens again. It's a waste of energy. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of resources to have the borders divided. And in my view, it will open again someday. And the Korean Peninsula will be an extremely exciting and extremely prosperous and successful country again, because you have a lot of brains, you have a lot of hardworking people, and you have assets. I expect it to happen certainly in my lifetime, certainly in your lifetime, and maybe even before. It just doesn't make any sense that the two countries are divided.
So it's based on view that at some stage, we don't know when the two Koreas will be unified, right?
Well, that's the way I read history. That's the way I read human beings, the way we think, the way we work. I suspect there will be one country again someday, and in the future, in our lifetime. It'll be a fantastic thing for the world. It would certainly be a fantastic thing for Korea. I mean, you have assets, you have hardworking people, you have brains, you have natural resources. Why are you killing each other? Why don't you all drink beer together and sing and dance?
I mean, personally, I'm more neutral on the unification prospect, but the younger Koreans here, in their 20s and 30s, are more negative because I think they are worried that their quality of life would suffer, and South Koreans would need to assume a lot of debt in the redevelopment of North Korea. But is that a too short-term view?
Many of those same things were said about Germany when there were two Germanys. And when Germany opened up and it changed, there were many people who were negative. They thought it would be terrible for Germany to unify. I mean, we will know in a few years. So far, it's been fine. I would suspect that the Koreans would have a good time together and prosper together. But I'm not Korean. I cannot tell you what to do. I'm just telling you how I read history and how I read human beings. And I think that everybody will be happy again someday. One of the things that when I first went to Korea, the Koreans told me was that North Korean women and South Korean men, I cannot say it in Korean. You can probably say it.
Nam nam.
Namyam Bupyeop or something.
Yeah, yeah, correct.
Well, I know it's not, I'm not correct, but I know there was a saying in South Korea, and it was the South Korean men who told me this, said South Korean men are best than North Korean women. I don't know why they say anything, but I do know that Korea has a long history of smart people and successful people, and they will again.
I mean, before being divided, North Korea was much more prosperous part of the peninsula, and it was more stronger industrial base, right?
Well, North Korea is right on the Chinese border. China's got hundreds of millions of people, so it makes sense. But again, I'm not Korean. I cannot tell you what to do, but I do know that someday the Korean Peninsula is going to be extremely successful and prosperous again, and peaceful.
I know you have two lovely daughters. Do they consume any Korean contents, the music or the movies or?
Well, they know about K-pop. They taught me about K-pop. I don't know much about pop music, but my daughters do, of course. I went into my daughter's bedroom once and I said, "Who is that?" And she looked at me like I was crazy. It was a K-pop princess, one of the famous K-pop women. I didn't know anything, but my children learned very early. They know about this sort of thing. They have been to Korea. They have been to the 38th parallel, and we all like Korea now.
Jim, I mean, there's a big following in Korea about your thought, your ideas. Do you have anything that you would like to share with our people here in Korea, whether it's investment or any general wisdom for this year?
Well, Professor, I will quickly say I have made many mistakes in my life, and I hope I live long enough to make many more mistakes. Because if you don't try, you don't make mistakes. The people who never make mistakes don't try anything new. So I urge everybody to first stay with what you know. Don't listen to other people. Stay with what you yourself know a lot about, and you will probably have a successful and a good life. Don't listen to other people. Listen to yourself.
I think developing your view, your idea, opinion is very important, and don't listen to others. And because there's so much talk in the market, right?
There is a huge amount of talk and lots of people who don't know what they're talking about, but they continue to talk, whether they know what they're talking about or not. So be very careful. Stay with what you know, not other people.
Okay, Jim, thank you very much for coming to the show. And it was really wonderful to have you. And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Professor Uri, and I hope I see you in Korea someday. I will tell you that for much of my life, I didn't really pay too much attention to Korea, but now I have learned to love Korea. I even like the food. I like nearly everything about Korea now. It's a wonderful place, and I am delighted and surprised how much I like Korea.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you. Same to you. And I look forward to seeing you in Korea someday.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.